Welcome to YM Lounge in its second edition. Today we're in conversation with Shubhi Saxena, who is in the product team. She wears multiple hats, but let's hear it directly from here. Shubhi, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I am a product manager at Yellow Messenger, and currently I lead the enterprise automation vertical here.
Amazing. So when you talk about enterprise automation, can you just define what that means?
Yeah, sure. So enterprise automation essentially includes any kind of automation that you can do within the enterprise instead of outward facing, right? For the productivity and better digital experience of your employees, maybe your vendor partners, and so on. So I would say anything but the customer facing experience would come under enterprise automation.
Awesome. So when we're talking about enterprise automation, can you describe what is Yellow Messenger's product vision?
Absolutely. So what we envisage is, or in fact what we say is, just like organizations hire a lot of people to do a lot of tasks currently,
Right.
many of those tasks do not really require human effort or creative effort, right? Which can be automated. And the upside of doing that is then your resources are free to actually engage proactively with your employees, your customers, with their colleagues, and so on. So we envisage an enterprise virtual assistant that organizations can hire to automate multiple operations across their entire enterprise landscape. Right. So everything from human resources management to IT support to procurement, supply chain, finance. If you see the current enterprise systems that are available are outdated, and the digital experience in B2B is not at all at par with the B2C experience.
Right.
So what we want to do is we want to bring in the same or maybe better digital experience within the enterprise as well.
Okay.
Because ultimately employees will create only what they consume, right? So if they are in a digitally healthy, fast, productive environment, definitely their productivity will improve way more at work as well.
So when you talk of enterprise automation for B2B, do you not work with B2C kind of companies?
We do. When I say B2B, I think it's essentially within the organization. It can be any kind of company.
Okay.
But when that company wants to automate its internal processes, streamline its communication, that is where we step in.
Awesome. So can you give us, some examples of where you see the product vision is actualized today, and where you see it in 2020?
Absolutely. So if you look at the situation today, we have a strong hold in automating the entire piece of conversation as well as automation, right? So if you look at maybe even either a customer or an employee experience, we are able to automate everything right from their onboarding to their servicing to their post purchase or post actions completion, engagement, running data and analytics on them across channels, including WhatsApp, voice, web, apps, etc. So that is where we stand now. Essentially, the infrastructure, since we are saying that the world is moving more towards a conversation first mode of conversation, you will not just need conversations in few bits and pieces. You will actually need an entire platform and infrastructure that can drive those conversations and engagement, right? So right from understanding a piece of content to automating the set of actions that need to be taken to again providing a response, right? That is one. But then a lot of other layers come in, right? When you say that you want your digital experience to be at par with the human experience, you would want to have a lot of personalization there.
Right.
You want to add a lot of context there, a lot of ability to understand and speak vernacular there. So those are some of the things that we are working on, and we imagine or we envisage our product to essentially be highly modular.
Okay.
So that an organization can pick any part of the entire platform offering that they need in their workflows. They do not really need the entire platform.
Okay.
Maybe they just want the voice piece or they just want the NLP piece, and that is what we offer. So yes, I think in short, we essentially want to perfect the entire platform end to end, which is needed for any kind of conversational automation.
So, Shubhi, can you tell us a little bit about Yellow Messenger's product vision?
Sure. So currently, as we stand today, we are a conversational AI platform,
Right.
which means that all end-to-end, all the pieces that you need for any kind of conversational engagement, we provide that.
Right.
However, moving forward, we want to be a cognitive engagement cloud, right? So I think the key difference between both of these is that a cloud is essentially modular.
Okay.
And you can basically just pick one piece and plug it into your enterprise landscape. For example, you might want just the NLP or just the voice and so on. So we want to perfect each and every piece, and we want to provide it in a much more modular and decentralized manner.
So you actually believe that, let's say, a large enterprise will need only one part of the automation and that will work seamlessly with their current systems, and that's the future?
Exactly. So the point is that they may or may not.
Sure.
But today there is no technology that they can go to if they need only a part of it. They need to buy the entire technology. And the
Okay.
problem is that because of this, they are not able to sort of absorb new technologies into their current landscape.
So let's break it down for our viewers. Like, what would you mean by, let's take an example of Indigo, and how would they use our platform in a modular format?
Let's say currently Indigo has a customer service bot, right? Maybe let's say 2-3 years down the line, they want their crew members to talk to each other. Okay, I'll give you one very good example. So let's get into the shoes of the crew members on an airplane, right? There is a lot of noise on the cockpit, and usually there may not be for Indigo, but for an international organization or an international airways, they might have a lot of accent gaps. They might be speaking different languages and so on. Right? In that scenario, it becomes very difficult for them to communicate with each other. So it becomes very difficult for the cockpit staff to communicate with people on the field because of the cockpit noise, because of the difference in their accents or maybe in the language that they speak. Now, if they just use our voice and NLP technologies, what they can do is they can place a bot in between that takes the input from the cockpit staff, maybe the pilot,
Okay.
removes all the noise from it, right? Translates it into a common language, maybe English or the listener's language, makes it accent neutral, and then delivers it to the listener on the field. And then the same vice versa. So here they are essentially only taking the voice piece of the bot. Right? So that is what we mean by modular. So most of the platforms essentially give you a drag and drop builder, but you do not have a lot of control over the NLP. For example, our machine learning model is a proprietary technology. It is not something that is built on top of another NLP solution, right? It's a proprietary thing which gives us a lot of control. And not just NLP, along with it you get all the conversational analytics on the conversations happening on the bot. In the same module, we have testing automation that comes for the maintenance and health checks of the bots, and also a support desk, right? So what happens when a bot cannot answer something? It has to go to, and it has to be handled by a human.
Right.
And that also comes in the platform itself. So we essentially provide you an end-to-end solution,
Right.
which is easier for businesses to build on and adopt. And I think that is the biggest, I would say, competitive fence that we have as a product.
Right. So it all looks great to hear, but are there really any real examples of companies which have really used the power of platform? Because it's a very nascent technology in itself. So do you have any examples of companies really using the platform power?
Absolutely. So the one example that I can give you is that of Schlumberger, right? So we started, I would say, implementing solutions for them around 5-6 months back.
Okay.
And at that time, we had started with just one bot, which was the HR bot.
Okay.
So the problem that they wanted to solve was that they had 100,000 employees spread across 80 different countries, right? And the policies were different for each of these employees.
Right.
So they had a team of 150 people sitting out of KL, which just answered people's queries day in and day out.
Wow.
So they would search through multiple knowledge bases, documents, and then give that answer, right? And that is something very repetitive. I mean, every day someone asks, am I eligible for paternity leave? Or can I come earlier than I wanted to back from paternity leave, right? So we built a knowledge management solution which essentially automated the whole process. And that is the first thing that we built.
Okay.
And to our surprise, when enterprises saw when the different teams within Schlumberger saw the potential of that,
Right.
they started adopting this technology more and more for different use cases.
Right.
One of them is field support automation. The second is assistance for travel-related queries.
Mhm.
Another one is a tool for essentially their drilling and measurement teams, their well services, etc.,
And
etc.
you're saying they're building all this on their own?
Yes. So currently there are 12 bots being built by Schlumberger teams all across the world, right? I have people literally from every continent other than Antarctica, which is
Right.
uninhabitable.
Right.
And there are at least 10 more in the pipeline for next year.
That's amazing.
So that is the kind of adoption that we are seeing from a large enterprise like Schlumberger.
Right. And is it really business driven to the level that somebody in the marketing team or HR team or anybody who is not very IT focused, can they really build their own chatbots?
Absolutely, they can. And in fact, that is why we have this concept of pre-built templates, right? So that
Right.
you can start with something. You do not need to essentially start from scratch.
Okay.
And the entire conversation builder is completely UI driven. It's very intuitive. I mean, just to give you an example, we today only completed an HR bot, which is essentially works very similar to Schlumberger's knowledge management bot, where we have written zero new code, zero new line of code, no new line of code has been written.
So, Shubhi, automation has been talked about in the sense of impacting businesses in a very good way. But do you have any examples where automation has actually impacted larger lives?
Absolutely. I mean, in fact, what we are seeing is that India and Southeast Asia are essentially the home market for conversational AI solutions, right? What we mean by home market is that these are places which have adopted voice and chat solutions as their first mode of communication or their
Right.
first channel of communication. A lot of people might not have studied a lot and stuff, but they got access to a phone which had WhatsApp and Facebook and all of that, right? So what automation does in this context, and if you bring three things together, right? If you bring conversations or chats together, chat/voice,
Mhm.
together with the ability to do that in vernacular, along with automation, what that does is that gives you the ability to reach the larger masses, right? People who are not comfortable speaking in English, people who are not comfortable browsing websites, people who do not have access to very good internet.
Right.
This gives you access to billions of those people,
Right.
to essentially the next billion or the Bharat as we call it, right? And the impact that it can have is, I cannot even imagine that. I'll just give you one example of one of the customers who we are working with. So we are currently doing a POC with Syngenta. So Syngenta essentially supplies fertilizers, seeds, and so on, right? These things to the farmers. What we are able to do now is that we are able to send real-time updates to farmers on what are the best crops to be grown this year or this month, right? What are the exact amount of fertilizers that they should put at what time, and we can do this real time based on the amount of rain that happened last week, and so on and so forth. And that is just one thing. The farmers can ask their queries back.
Right.
And we have support agents who can just respond to them on WhatsApp, just like how they talk to their friends, just like how they send good morning messages. They can actually get
Yeah.
a message on what's the best way to grow their income, what are the best jobs out there, what are the different ways in which they can use their vocational skills, and so on.
Right.
So I think the only thing that was stopping us till now was the ability to communicate with everyone on the same platform.
Right.
And that is something that conversational AI has solved. And that is something that I personally am very excited about.
Right. So, do you think messaging and internet have a large play in, actually bringing automation to the end customers?
Absolutely. I believe that the one thing that was lacking in internet was messaging and vernacular.
Right.
Now that we have that, there is no stopping us from bringing everyone on board. And, basically that democratizing technology is something that I really see happening now.
And Yellow Messenger has already forayed into this space?
Absolutely. So we talked about Syngenta. Along with that, there are large public companies / government departments who we are working with or have already closed the deal with them to implement these things on large scale.
Right.
Right, to everyone. Just to give you an example, this is not necessarily coming from our customer list, but imagine if you could order a passport, or if you could file for a KYC, or if you could file your income tax through a bot, right, through WhatsApp.
Right.
That would be really convenient, and those are the kind of things that we're working on as a company.
So that sounds interesting, Shubhi. But can you tell me, how is a chatbot different from a website? I can do all of these things on a website as well.
So there are multiple things, and I get that question a lot from different kind of people. I think the key difference between a chatbot and a website is that a website is a non-cognitive channel, right? It is essentially static or fixed.
It's same for everyone.
Yes, it is same for everyone. Even if you personalize it based on user profile, it does not learn over time.
Okay, right.
Whereas your bot is something that learns over time based on your interaction with the bot. That is one thing. The second is, of course, the voice interactions, right? Voice interactions, voice first is not something that you can easily conceive with websites, whereas you can do that with bots.
Right.
And the third is just the overall accessibility. I mean, I think you would agree that WhatsApp any day is way more accessible to the masses as compared to websites. So these are some of the key things that make bots preferred choice over websites as a channel.
What do you think are the three most challenging phases that any employee in the product team here goes through?
I think the first would definitely be onboarding, right? I mean, even though we do have a process set up for onboarding, this is a startup, and we really like to, since we are growing fast, we try to learn and implement as fast as we can.
Right.
And as product team, you will be at the core, right? You will be interacting with each and every team in the organization. So
Right.
just being able to communicate the same thing to everyone, just being able to meet their expectations and prioritize can sometimes be a challenge.
Right.
I think that would be the first one.
So you just feel that there's too much to be done and too much to be communicated, and you wish you had 24 more hours.
Yeah, kind of like that. I think that there's no such thing as too much communication for a product person.
Right.
Right? I think we are all, our currency is feedback, whether we get it from sales, marketing, customers, etc. And our entire machinery runs on the fact that we have to sort of take all of that feedback and keep adding it in our product and automate as many things as possible for the company. So for us, there is no such thing as too much communication. And I think that is something that a lot of product folks may not understand early in the job. But I think that is something that will really help them.
So Shubhi, you have a lot of new joinees in the company. What do you think are the main challenges that a new joinee faces here, and how do they best combat it?
I think the first challenge, or I would say an opportunity in disguise, is that we are working on something that's a very nascent technology.
Right.
No one has really done it before, and there is no model to really replicate. So you might be coming across a lot of new situations previously unheard of, and you will have to solve them on the spot, right? So having them that problem solving mindset and that innovative attitude towards things will really go a long way. That would be the first thing. The second is, I think as a product person, there is essentially no such thing as over communication, right? So customer problems, and for us, everyone is a customer, right? So product team, developers are our customers, marketing is our customer, and so on. So different stakeholders' problems are essentially our currency, and we run on that. So I would really recommend people to communicate with each and every department and stakeholder of the company and outside the company, and see how that conversation adds value to the product, right? How problems get converted into features is, I think, essentially how we should operate. Yeah, so I think if we have these two, we are good to go. And of course, on-the-job learning is something that trumps all.
Right. So Shubhi, in your in your past work here, what do you think have been the most challenging deployments and why?
Sure. So we talked about Schlumberger. I think I mean, it was definitely challenging, but it is something that I'm really proud of. Was the Indigo deployment that was I was not really a part of it. It was driven by some other stars of our company like Shweta and Surinder. But the reason that I'm proud of it is just because of the scale and the kind of impact that it has had on Indigo, right? So the situation before the deployment was that people would call them for random things. I mean, I think you can relate how many times you lost a boarding pass in your mail chains, right? And people would call them just to get a boarding pass, just for web check-in. Can I take 2 kilo of amka achar in my baggage, right? And so on. So these are queries that are repetitive, right? And these do not really give agents an opportunity to proactively engage with the customers, right? And that is the challenge that Indigo wanted to solve. They wanted their agents to be their customers' friends, proactively engage with them for better conversations, right? So what we did was we did the entire requirement gathering. We saw, okay, these are the things where the top call drivers are, where the most queries are coming from, and we automated a lot of them. And just to sort of quote some numbers, right? The bot is less than 3 months old, and right now we have more than 1 lakh users, 1 lakh new users using the bot every month, and more than 1 million messages being exchanged.
Wow.
And I think I just get goosebumps looking at those data and analytics, and that is something that I'm really proud of, and I believe is the future of conversational AI.
Well, it is one of India's largest private airlines.
Absolutely.
And carrying such a large fleet. And personally speaking, like I haven't even been able to get to an agent because airlines are so inaccessible.
Yes.
So it's commendable that so many people actually have queries, and it's been resolved now through chatbot. So where exactly is this chatbot resting? Is it an app?
Yeah.
Or
So right now it is deployed on Indigo's website itself, right? So now you do not need to log in to download your boarding pass, blah, blah, blah. You can just do it through the bot itself directly. And we have plans of launching it on many more channels in the days to come.
interesting. Great. And if I was to talk about any international deployment that you've done, let's talk about it not from the customer point, but from the team's point. Like, what have been the most challenging parts, for an international deployment internally at Yellow Center?
Sure. So I think I would say, again, not necessarily challenging, but things that we discovered as we did it was around, from a technology point of view, was around localization, globalization, managing different languages and stuff like that, right? So let's say if you have an HR bot where you schedule meetings, right? And let's say using that bot, you want to invite people from 5 different time zones. That is something you need to think about while building that solution, right? And at the same time, the experience has to be localized to each of the country. You might want the bot to talk in French in France and in German in Germany. Our bots are able to search documents, like I told you. In France, all your policies may be in French. So you will have to search in French documents, right? So those are the kind of challenges. And because this is language, this is something that was never a key driver in any technology before this.
Right.
But when you talk about conversations, language is at the center of it.
Right.
So yeah, I think essentially language, accents, voice are some of the things that you need to think about when you build scalable and global solutions.
So Shubhi, you've been one of the front runners at Yellow Messenger, especially in the product team. What do you think is the future of conversational AI?
Well, I think all communication will move from the multiple channels that it is spread across to the single channel, which is conversations. And it will transform because now the channel is cognitive, right? Conversations are getting smarter day in and day out.
Right.
So I think, yeah, that is the future. Smarter conversations where technology is democratized.
Great. And what do you feel about women in technology? Do you think companies are doing enough to actually, really build women leaders?
Well, I think some companies are. A lot of them are not, right? But even for the companies that are, I would really urge all women to sort of come together, help each other as much as possible, and not distinguish themselves at least. I mean, I don't know, they call it breaking the glass ceiling or whatever. But yeah, do not have that bias in your own minds. I think that is the first step that all of us need to take collectively as society, not just men or women.
Thank you so much for being a part of the Yellow Messenger Lounge, Shubhi. And it was great knowing you, and especially the product vision for the future. All the very best.
Thank you so much.
And we look forward to having another guest on this couch soon. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.
Bye.